It's just the worst nightmare. I mean, from a father's perspective, feeling so bad for your wife, feeling everything that she's going through, her, you know, I already know how I feel. I can't imagine how she feels. So I'm here to talk about the father's side of our second miscarriage. It's kind of a depressing subject, especially when you're trying. I got out of work early. It was a Tuesday, and I was pretty excited. I was able to get out a half hour early, so I was getting ready to head home. Just pulled out onto the main road to head home, and then I get a phone call, and it's Nikki, and she said that, hey, they can't hear the heartbeat. Can you please come? So of course I'm freaking out, and the last thing I ever said to Nikki was before she went into the appointment, said good luck, keep me updated, and I didn't expect her to write anything or text me about how it was going, because I knew that she was in the appointment. So I was just heading home, and then she called and she said, you know, can you please come? We gotta do an emergency ultrasound, so because we can't hear the heartbeat. So right at that point, I didn't quite want to believe it. I just felt like that they just couldn't find it. I felt like that the device that they were using wasn't strong enough, wasn't powerful enough, and it was early on in the pregnancy. So I really wasn't that worried. I just said, you know, the bigger ultrasound will find it. That's exactly what I was thinking. I said, you know, the more powerful ultrasound will find the heartbeat. It's very early. So I get there and I get to the emergency room. My wife was just walking down. She didn't look too happy, and so I kind of had a sick feeling in my stomach, and then, you know, we kind of discussed what was going on. We checked into the emergency department, and it's just kind of hard to talk about anything because it's all on your mind. You know, you can't. Me and Nikki didn't really have much to say to each other because we were worried, we were sick to our stomach, you know, we just don't want to talk about what could actually really be happening. So we get to the registration, we check in, we get down to the ultrasound, they come in, and I had Brielle on my lap, and Nikki was on the table, and they started doing the ultrasound. So I could see the baby. I was like, sweet, you know, and I was like, okay, now when they zoom in, you know, we'll see the heart flicker like we did a couple weeks prior. And so they zoomed in. I wasn't seeing anything, and the doctor was quiet. That's when I started getting a little sick to my stomach, and I was like, okay. But she, you know, she tried to give us hope, and she tried to, you know, say, you know, this isn't just it, because the uterus was tilted, the baby's sitting back, so it's kind of hard because there's a lot of fluid, there's, you know, the sac, the whole 9 yards. So I still had a little bit of hope. I still had a little bit of hope in me, and so they decided to do the vaginal. And so at this point, you know, I moved Brielle above her mama's head so she didn't see what was going on down there. You know, unfortunately she was with us. You know, we couldn't really do anything about it. She was just with us at the wrong time, wrong place type thing. So we put her up, moved her up, and then we used a vaginal one, and we saw the baby again, but nothing. And I just remember feeling so hot inside, so mad when she said that there isn't a heartbeat. But at the same time, I didn't want to show my emotions. I wanted to be a good support for my wife, because I know how much I wanted it, and she wanted it that much more, so I knew it was that much more important to her. Not to saying it wasn't important for me either, but just trying to be the right hubby, just to try to be there for her, you know, and it was just devastating. And so I held my composure. I just was very supportive. I hugged her. I mean, there's only, you know, you can only do so much. There's nothing you can do. It's out of your control. It's not like you can save it. It's not like, you know. So they figured that the baby heartbeat stopped within a day, or Monday, that prior day, because it measured up 9 weeks, which is what it was. So we get into the car, you know, we're not really talking, you know, there's nothing really to be talking about. It's a very uptight moment. It's just devastating, really. Since I drove there, my wife brought me to my truck, and I still was feeling that heat. I was still feeling that frustration. I was feeling there was just so much mixed emotion, because we've been trying for 2 years, and not only it was stressful for my wife, it was also stressful for me, because I'm trying to make sure that we're doing everything right, which she was doing everything right, which that was not the issue. It's just we just don't know what actually caused it. We're supposed to get some results back pretty soon. But before I got to my truck, I just held Nikki's hand, and I knew that, you know, she had to drive home alone. But I just had to vent before we separated, and before I got to my truck. So I vented, I cried, very, very frustrated. I was mad. It was just something that you work, it's almost like you work so hard for, between consistently going to the doctors, trying new medication, which, you know, every different medication has side effects, tracking, whatever it included to make this baby is now all gone after trying for 2 years. You just don't know why this is happening. You know, God gives you this blessing, and then it's almost like he takes it right back from you, which I know it's not him. And I believe, I have faith that, you know, we'll get this baby. It's just, at the time, you don't think like that. So we get home, a pretty quiet night. And the next day, you know, we went in, talked about our options, and, you know, obviously surgery wasn't a top priority. So, you know, we decided to do the pill, and man, that was painful. It was painful. She was in the tub. She took the pills 6 hours earlier that day, and she was having contractions. She was in so much pain. She was bleeding, you know, and the only thing that was comforting her was in the tub, the hot tub. And I mean, like, I don't mean to be disgusting or anything, but this is true life. This is life. But the tub turned brown pretty quick. You know, there was clotting, and just seeing her in so much pain, cry. I do not wish anything like this on even my worst enemy. Like, this is something that people take for granted. There's people out there that just get pregnant and, oh yeah, I'm just having another baby, or it's a mistake, or it's not like that for us. And so, you know, being there for her, I had to work the next day. So luckily, my wife's mother came down, and I was able to go to bed around 1 a.m. And I finally felt her come to bed around like 3. I like to say 3 o'clock. And she didn't look good. She's losing a lot of blood. It's devastating to go through. So, you know, I woke up the next morning. I got her, you know, the breakfast, got her fluid and OJ. You know, there's only so much you can do. So I went to work that day. Luckily, you know, Nikki's mother came back down that morning, took care of her for the day. She was telling me how things were going, you know. It was just something that didn't want to talk about, but I had to talk about it because it's what's going on, it's life. Anyway, now we're talking 2 days later, now it's a Friday. And I went into work that morning and she had a appointment to see how this procedure was going with the pills. And she looked up there and there was a fetus stuck in the cervix. So she called me and said that I need to go do emergency D&C. So I'm like, Jesus Christ, like this is just, now you know, we lost the baby, now we're going to have surgery. It's just the worst nightmare. I mean, from a father's perspective, feeling so bad for your wife, feeling everything that she's going through, her, you know, I already know how I feel. I can't even imagine how she feels. I was stuck in the waiting room, you know, after she went in. There's a little screen, and you know, it tells you what part of the process that they're at, you know. So I kept watching the screen. I had a little ID number. You know, it said that she was in registration process, and then I went to surgery, and then I went to recovery during that time. There was just so much going on in my head. Like, I wish I could be there to hold her hand. But, you know, obviously I can't. You know, it's just this whole thing. It was just a nightmare. Then finally, the recovery icon came up, and that's when I knew that she was heading back in. So I went back into where the room that she was discharged from, and waited for her, and I saw her getting rolled in, and she was just coming off anesthesia, and it broke my heart. Just knowing that it just cleaned her out. I mean, no other way to say it, but so yeah, no, I give that woman a lot of respect, you know, and I'm sorry that I haven't been in these videos recently. It just took me a couple weeks to cope with it, I guess. I'm just different from her, you know. She likes to talk about it. She likes to, you know, that makes her feel better about it. And me, on the other end, I just try to avoid it, I guess, because it's just so devastating. But I'm in a better state. You know, me and Nikki are both on a positive term. You know, we're gonna, once this period comes back, we're gonna start tracking again, and then go through all this. You know, we're gonna go see a specialist now because, you know, it's our second miscarriage. First one was hard, the second one isn't even any better. It just, the second one was just really hard because I remember smiling when I saw the heartbeat flickering at week 7. It felt so warm and fuzzy. Just a good, happy feeling, like it's finally happening. And 2 weeks later, it's just a nightmare. A real man that has feelings cries, and I'm not ashamed of it. But I just hope, you know, the other fathers out there understand what's going on. And, you know, I hope that it never happens to them. Guys, just keep your fingers crossed. Hopefully, you know, this miscarriage will spark something else. Hopefully this won't take as long. You know, time is ticking. You know, Brielle's already almost 4. And, you know, we don't really want Brielle to be any older. She doesn't have to be. We want her to be, you know, a big sister at 4. That'd be awesome. Really, the only advice I can say is, you know, just be supportive. Just be there for whoever you're with, because what they're going through kills if it ever happens, and I wish to God that it doesn't happen to anybody.